I started out in crypto about a decade ago when a classmate of mine told me about this thing, crypto, that came up, and happened to buy some of my first crypto. My background is in building semiconductor ICs, and surprisingly, there's a lot of common ground between building ICs and building a reliable product in crypto.
He was able to acquire close to 700,000 users on his app. Hey everyone, welcome to a fresh new episode of Hash It Out. My name is Bimlesh, your host, and I'm also the co-founder at Foundership. Foundership is a Web3 accelerator VC working with growth stage startups with a single focus now to get every Web3 startup to get token launch ready. So we do this in a 90-day cohort where you get empowered with coaching, capital, and community, and everything that you need to get ready for a token launch in 90 days. So without further ado, I'm super excited to welcome Jason Rodrigues from Scratch Protocol. A tweet of his is what got us connected and got us talking together and set this podcast today. It's a very interesting statistics that he was able to acquire close to 700,000 users on his app, and that got us excited and talking to say that there is one part of the world that is able to get users on board and transact also users using crypto, while the rest of the world is still struggling to find users. So this is a mystery that we are going to unravel today in this conversation with Jason. And let's jump in to hear more from him on what has he done, what was his unique value prop that has been able to attract several crypto users, many of them first time, and get started in this journey. So Jason, thank you so much. Thanks for joining in and being the guest on Hash It Out. Fantastic. So Jason, talk to us a little bit about your background. You were with Cello Foundation earlier, and now you're a startup now. You're now a startup founder. So talk to us a little bit about your background into crypto and your journey so far as a founder on the other side of the coin.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out in crypto about a decade ago when a classmate of mine told me about this thing, crypto, that came up, and happened to buy some of my first crypto at the time. Much like a lot of people in that phase, I forgot about my keys, forgot about it, and surfaced again after doing several years in the hardware industry. So a lot of my background is in building semiconductor ICs. And surprisingly, there's a lot of common ground between building ICs and building a reliable product in crypto. And I'll kind of talk through that as well. That said, I started out at Cello as an early operator, found building out a lot of the teams there, and joined pre-product, pre-fundraise, pre-mainnet. Scaled a lot of that for over 4.5 years. Built out the teams, and then decided to quit and build on a thesis I've been building for almost a year. And fundamentally, what Scratch is about is the idea that there can be better alignment between the people that produce tokens, the people that receive tokens, and the people that are long-term aligned to the protocol and the budding of the protocol as well. So currently, oftentimes, you have a 2 out of 3 that occurs, where either the early backers benefit and the long-term holders benefit, or you have the founder benefits and the long-term holders benefit, but the investors get the shorter end of the stick.
Right.
Or you have the other way around. And that often creates a bit of tension that we feel can be alleviated in the long term. And what we've built out is campaign infrastructure that helps you build, onboard, retain, and engage users across the long tail. And Scratch is essentially, we think of it as chain agnostic, campaign agnostic infrastructure. So you could think of it as a way to run, whether you want Scratch cards or you want to run retroactive public goods funding. We think that eventually all of these things are going to be powered underneath by Scratch. We think of it as extremely simple. So we don't reinvent the wheel. A lot of the times what's happened in a lot of other industries is when you look at Bimlesh coming into a wallet and performing an action every day for about 5 days, Bimlesh is now a very valuable user. So a big part of the goal is to make Bimlesh more valuable and to ensure that he doesn't churn. And so how do we make that a reality was the vision we started out with, and building out the mechanisms and the platforms was kind of our goal and our mission. And we think this is going to be transformative, given more than $1 in $3 raised goes into driving usage. And we think
Absolutely.
that large market of about $22 billion is going to soon be captured by Scratch and its subsidiary products in some sense.
Fantastic. So talk to us a little bit about this particular post of hitting about 700,000 users in your app. What does it do? How are you integrating with MiniPay, and what's this journey of reaching out to 700,000 users?
Yeah, absolutely. So during my time at Salo, one of the big privileges I had was to build out a mass market consumer wallet called MiniPay that currently has north of 4 million users and counting. It's tapped into a distribution of over 100 million monthly active users. So building with some of those people gave me a true sense of empathy for people that actually desire crypto but don't have access to it, and giving them a very clear mental model and a container that they can access it with. Just like in India, Google Pay took off through mass adoption, and scratch cards and like all these sort of like gamification mechanisms. What we thought was, why not combine the go-to-market of like Google Pay bundled with a crypto dollar wallet, and like when you mesh those two together, you have a pretty tremendous opportunity to drive people towards different actions that are valuable in the crypto realm. This could include swapping, participating in like mass crypto economies, buying tokens, and driving a lot more usage. And we realized that there's a niche of like users in Africa that really wanted to do this, but didn't have a very clear container to do it. So we bundled all the mental models that they did understand around scratch cards, Easter eggs, loot boxes, etc. Built very friendly packaging that was user experience friendly on top of crypto protocols that then enabled these users to kind of come in and try it out. What ended up happening was the streaks being one of the most popular feature led to so much usage for stablecoin that it started to drive over 15% of the network traffic, all on like Salo network as well as like beyond. And this was beautiful because prior to this, no other crypto application had seen that much uptake, let alone like throughput of transactions and all of that. So for us, the learning curve involved rebuilding the stack from the ground up in order to accommodate this sort of like user interest, because most of crypto isn't built to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Scratch essentially as an interface is really, really simple. You kind of get into the, you get into your favorite wallet, and then our SDK is like plugged in the back. We're not really in the front, we're in the back, like sitting there. And the moment the user comes in, you want to drive them towards very specific user journeys. And this allows you to, depending on what you define as the user journey, able to push them down that rabbit hole. And once they've completed that action, drive them towards a card that could be like, scratch card, could be anything specific that could lead to a token dispersal or a, points dispersal, etc. We just build the substrate, and so you can build the applications that you desire on top of it in some sense. And that's what MiniPay has been using to drive a ton of usage as well. And obviously, we get a lot of partners that are interested in bringing that distribution into their networks as well.
Fantastic. So this has come out as a great use case of reward distribution, right? So what you're essentially building out is a great reward and a retention and an engagement tool for any dApp to leverage. And scratch cards is one of the key mechanisms through which distribution can be done, right? And in the backend, do you also facilitate a lot of merchant tie-ups for these scratch cards to be done, or that's a responsibility of the dApp to force those partnerships for the scratch cards?
That's a really good question. So yes, we do force, or a big part of our kind of mental model to the market dynamics this creates is a two-sided market opportunity. So you have the users, you have the distributor, and then you have like people that want to be plugged into the distribution to get these actions going on their network. We've currently triggered over 80 million actions on chain that could involve swaps, etc. And there's a lot of people that desire these actions to happen. So there could be a price distribution in such a way that it happens at the cusp of Scratch being at the center, where you're able to drive a lot of these like distribution mechanics from the distributor that wants to publish like a specific ad through a merchant. It could be your neighborhood store, because we have locations we're able to drive very specific action, or it could be Web3 providers like let's say DYDX or 0x triggering like a swap. And the good thing about this is you're able to do it at a fraction of the cost as compared to like any other. So you're no longer spending tens of thousands or $20,000 on one airdrop that then leads to a deterrent community. But here you're able to drive towards a long-term motive in some sense by creating that like three-sided marketplace.
Got it. Fantastic. Now, how did you zero in on Africa as a market?
That's a really good question. I think having been plugged into sellers like thesis early on, Africa was a big market for us. But that said, I'm very bullish on Global South being the place to go in terms of users, appetite, engagement, and onboarding and retention. And so my personal goal is to bring Africa, like Asia, and Latin America, and bring products that are centered around mental models they understand and that they want to use onto crypto rails in a meaningful way. And I think that given the population density that exists, as well as the appetite and the virality that it can create through just word of mouth that we saw through Scratch as well, a lot of the growth that happened between 200,000 and 700,000 happened in the last 3 months, where people started telling their friends, friends started telling their friends, and it started to really snowball into it. And we think that like level of K factor is only possible in the global south at this point. And so that's why we're quite bullish on Africa being a pretty key market for us to go into and like drive a lot of actions into. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, very, very true. Because Global South is fundamentally that part of the world that doesn't have the best financial infrastructure and also looks up to the global north, if I were to say, to kind of rely on them to drive a lot of their policies, frameworks, and stuff like that. And obviously, there are two sides of the world, but one is completely underprivileged and the other one is super privileged. And that's where crypto creates that world where everyone is now on an equal platform of access and financial freedom and stuff like that. So what were some of your initial experiments to enable adoption? What is that you guys did differently, or some things you did naturally that came to the African market to adopt MiniPay as a wallet and underlying the usage of Scratch Card? So talk us through that initial days of getting users on board and getting users to truly leverage Scratch Cards.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you the more counterintuitive points because I think your audience would really like salvage these and make a lot more sense out of it. So one thing that we noticed was like quite important was to really simplify the experience. So simplify to the degree that is just unheard of for crypto. So get rid of the connect wallet button, get rid of the switch networks button. So there's no, when the user is dropped into a dApp or an experience, within 5 clicks, they're able to enable a transaction to happen. And that was unreal in the way in which it was triggered. And same for like Scratch cards as well. When you look at Block Scratch and the Scratch kind of experience, it's just so seamless because the user doesn't know. So when you scratch, it's exactly like doing it on Google Pay or any other scratch card platform. Even though underneath there's millions of things happening where we're verifying that it's happened, the block time is taking place, the block confirmation is happening all underneath. And we had a relentless focus on product experience, so uniqueness or the simplicity of the experience, not over complicating it by adding more, but by taking away things from the experience. So that's a proactive mindset to it, really made a huge difference. And we're very, very deeply product-minded people. We focus on building that remarkable experience by simplifying. And we draw a big amount of inspiration from how Apple did it with the iPhone in the first kind of sitting. So what we wanted to do was build an iPhone-like experience, but for crypto applications to set sort of a pedestal for that. And so that was, I think, the first kind of feedback that we received that was really powerful, which is users that didn't have any experience of crypto wallets, etc., were now able to make their first transaction in about 5 clicks of entering a wallet, which was impeccable. And simplifying away gas and all of the other things really made a huge difference to how we operate, how we think about doing things and running it. And then secondly, I think starting with a narrow geographic focus. So we started with a go-to-market that was specific to one specific geography, spoke to these users. And even now we engage with the users on a regular basis as part of our product development process and, speak to them, figure out what their needs are and actually see how they react to different user screens, how they react to different things. And I think this product mindset that is very deeply embedded into Web2 still hasn't made it into a deep core part of Web3 product development. And I think that you can build a lot more sticky of like token experiences as well if you embed like these deep product practices into your Web3 product development flow. And that's what Scratch seeks to enable, which is making it simpler for users to do that in a Web3 context and a Web3 setting.
All right. Fantastic. There are two, three things that comes out of here. One is a deep focus on user experience. Now, why was this so important? Because you were targeting non-native crypto users in Africa, or you were targeting a combination of both?
Yes, we were targeting people that valued 50 megabytes of data every single day. So the packet size of like what we were delivering needed to be extremely small. And so focusing on the nitty-gritties of the user experience being tight, but at the same time the packet size and the delivery of it being like super clean was a huge part of the emphasis, because it was like, and that served as the common denominator across. So now if a person that's used to using this on the iPhone comes in and sees the same seamlessness, they're used to it. But making that the common denominator across the board was very, very, very important.
Fantastic. This is almost in similar lines where mobile payments using SMS in Africa took off unexpectedly very high using the M-Pesa technology, right? So what you're essentially saying is now with Web3 you have that M-Pesa moment that has come out in Africa with your application and with your experience out there. Fantastic.
100%.
Yeah, because Africa, like India, has always leapfrogged technology adoptions, right? And I think that's going to be true with every global South countries where innovations that benefit humanity, a large population of citizens, is always going to get adopted faster than what we think is going to be the learning curve. So product builders and product designers have the greatest responsibility of simplifying the user experience to increase adoption. And that's what I'm hearing, the way that you guys have cracked it by using iPhone as an inspiration that simplifies operations intuitively, that brings in a very good adoption behavior amongst savvy and non-savvy users as well to come on board. Fantastic there. Talk to us a little bit about the team, and because every blockchain team is kind of distributed worldwide, but you chose Africa as a market. What were some of the challenges that you had in terms of getting feedback, in terms of reaching out? What community tools and frameworks did you guys use as a team to kind of drive this forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So we wanted to meet users where they are. So our team is predominantly distributed across India, Africa, the US, and the UK at this point. And so we spent a lot of time talking to users by means of our ambassador network that sits in Africa, as well as people that we've hired to test out the product in country as well. And one of the big kind of insights, or not insights, but I guess like insights you could call it, was that we had to meet the users where they are. So using WhatsApp and like all these tools that they are familiar with, but they're able to flag, bugs, feature requests, etc. There was really, really important. And sometimes you got to just be kind with people. So like people come around to giving you a lot of like useful feedback. You spend the time to like learn more about them, and like so we actually like pushed all of our engineers, all of our product folks to really focus and talk to people on an ongoing basis to ensure that they kind of come through. Our tool stack is very simple. We use Linear for engineering, roadmap management, Notion, forms that pipe into it. So very, very hacky, scrappy, like sort of tool sets. And then for the communication piece, we have a bunch of like Telegram bots that like ensure that the community is in check from time to time, that we're not getting spammed, etc. But once they come in, making a user valuable and like more valuable is something that we constantly keep like a very high degree of focus on. The community on Telegram, Twitter, all of these like form important tools. But I think we just want to make sure that the mental models relate to where they want to be as well.
Fantastic.
One thing I would add is the DNA of the founding team that we pulled together required a very different essence. And we needed people who understood Web3 really, really well. The people that understood ad networks, scaling transactions, all these things in a really seamless way. Because when you're building something that is a tectonic shift in user experience, a lot of the times you need to rebuild the stack or the middleware from the ground up. And right about now, I think Scratch is at the forefront of the indexer, transaction queuing, and like building out a lot of these like mechanisms. We are at the forefront of that because of the needs that we have, which is like processing 50,000 daily active users that come in and making sure that they go through a transaction requires a bit of like out of the box thinking from that like perspective. And so that's another thing I'd like to point out, which is like a lot of core mechanisms we built out were resultant from the team that was like very, very, out of the box thing.
Fantastic. Do you plan to stay on Cello? You plan to go multi-chain, enable the Scratch protocol to go cross-chain across ecosystems, or what are your plans forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So at this point in time, we are definitely plotting towards, enabling our technology to, access like multiple ecosystems, multiple geographies. And so as ecosystems sort of build up, their chops around like the technology, developer tooling, etc., we're plotting out our go-to-market across the board. And there is definitely plans to expand quite rapidly.
Fantastic. So coming towards the end, Jason, talk to us a bit about your journey as a founder. What have been your key learnings and experiences so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's been absolutely fantastic. I think one like non-intuitive learning is I'm not a very outward focused person, but the fact that we connected over a tweet meant that the power of one tweet is like super high. So the amount of impressions that got and the downstream effects of that are really high. I think with crypto companies, like we did this recently as well. Crypto companies are essentially media companies that monetize on the side through tokens. So it's very important that you like really understand that fundamental truth and start to think about like that pipeline. So I think that for me was a big learning as a founder. And then second, just build with like a strong focus on brand and product, because that, in my opinion, bundled with distribution is your biggest moat. Like people will come to you wherever you build a product if you can master these like 2 or 3 things, as opposed to focusing on other things that are more repeatable in some sense. Fantastic. So I think those were kind of 2 big learnings that I've had, and definitely out here making friends. And so I'm excited to chat with you, your audiences as well, if they have any like specific questions that I can be helpful with, especially in the consumer crypto space.
Super. Thank you so much, Jason. Thanks for joining in today. I know this has been a short one, but we'll circle back and bring you again to do a little more deep dive, break down a lot more details, and then wishing you the very best that you become one of the big protocols that really helps dApps to attract, retain, and engage users on their platform, and make this as a de facto standard for anyone who's looking out to build dApps on different ecosystems. So with this, we come to an end of today's Hash It Out episode. Jason can be reached on Twitter as Jason Rodrigues. Just search him out. He's super, accessible and responds well. If you have further questions on what he had just shared, and do check out Scratch protocol and look to integrate your dApp with Scratch so that you attract more users from the global south, and let's take it forward. So with this, we wrap today's show. Do check out foundershiphq.com. We do have upcoming acceleration programs, and you can get up to 100,000 investment/grants from our ecosystem partners. And we promise you that we get you ready in about 90 days for your next token launch in Q1, Q2 next year, right? So with this, we wrap today's episode, and see you soon in the next one. Thank you so much for joining in.